Do you know the difference between apathy, empathy, and sympathy? Listen, last week we talked about patience, and we're going to talk about it again today, but in a different way. Last week we said that patience begins with understanding, and I'm telling you that understanding should lead us to empathy, but it doesn't always. My friend Charlie is going to talk about empathy and why it's so crucial for us as followers of Jesus. So enjoy this message from my friend Charlie Brown.
Hello, my name's Charlie Brown, and I'm subbing for Pastor Nate today, who's taking the weekend off, and he asked me if I would share a message today on practicing empathy. So I appreciate that opportunity, and I'm looking forward to sharing this message with you. I want to begin by talking about what's the basic meaning of empathy, as well as a couple of other words that help frame the context or the understanding of empathy. So let's start with the word sympathy. Sympathy is seeing someone who's just fell out of a second-story window, and you run up to them and you go, "Oh man, I'm sorry, did it hurt? Hang in there, you'll be okay, and by the way, I'll pray for you." That's kind of how we use sympathy in our lives. Sympathy is actually a positive good virtue, but it falls a little short of, I think, our overall goal as followers of Jesus Christ. We can't afford to just be sympathetic towards people. Apathy responds with this: "Oh man, dude, you just fell out of a second-story window. That was dumb. Hope you're okay." Apathy is basically, "I really don't care." Empathy, on the other hand, is, "Hey, are you okay? Where are you hurt? Don't move. Let me call 911. I think your arm may be broken. Let's get it in a splint. Who can I call for you?" Empathy is similar to sympathy because it connects with the feelings and the hurt that the person is experiencing. But I think empathy goes a step further. Empathy says, "I identify with you, I hurt with you. What can I do to help you to overcome and to move forward and to get over this dilemma that you are in?" There is an identity for how the person is feeling when we're identifying with them in the context of empathy. But there is the effort to help out also. I had the privilege of serving as a missionary in Austria a number of years ago. I showed up at church one Sunday morning, and I was passing this young lady named Ingrid. And as I passed her, I said what I always said. I said, "Hey, V. Gates, how are you doing? What's going on?" And her response was, "I'm not doing well. I've had a really bad week." And I said, "Oh, sorry to hear it. God bless you. Have a great day." And I kept walking. Man, she turned around and she came after me and she said to me, "You just asked me how I felt and how I was doing. I told you I was not doing well. I'd had a bad week, and you blew me off with this 'God bless you' thing. I was insulted by your attitude and the way you spoke to me, by the way, and I want you to know I'm hurt by your words." Initially, I thought, that's rude of this lady. But then I thought more about it, and you know what? She was right. She was spot on. I did ask her, "How are you doing? How is it going?" And she was transparent and honest with me, and she said, "This is how I'm doing." But my response was apathetic. I said the nice words. I said things we're supposed to do. "Oh, God bless you. Maybe I'll pray for you. I'm so sorry for you." But I did nothing to step into her pain to try to understand what was going on in her life. Was there something I could do to help her in that dilemma? Was there anything I could do to serve her? That just blew right past me. It blew right past her. And honestly, I was wrong. And I learned from that experience. I try to be much more cognizant now. If I say to somebody, "How are you doing?" I have a flashback to that moment, and I want to pause and say, I had better listen to how they're doing, and I need to respond appropriately. We all need to do that. I'm going to pause here just a second and ask you this question. Are you ever guilty of that attitude, the one that I had, where you ask somebody how they're doing, but you don't really mean it? You're not really concerned about how well they're doing. You're just trying to be nice. Are you ever at that point? Have you ever had that experience where someone asks you, "How are you doing? Are you doing okay?" And we tell them, and then they blow us off. How do you feel when that happens? Are you offended by that? I want you to take a few moments and think about that. Both sides of that experience. How do you feel when it happens to you? How do you feel when you've done that to somebody else? And is there anything you would want to change in either one of those scenarios? Give that some thought for just a few minutes a few moments, and then we'll pick back up with the message. I want to draw your attention to Philippians 2, verses 1 through 8. This is Paul writing to the church in Philippi, and he addresses the need of Christians and people who are wanting to follow Jesus Christ as apprentice followers. And he says, this is the attitude we need. This is the DNA. These are the virtues that we need to have, the same as Christ Jesus. This is what he says. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of the others. Paul challenges us as would-be followers of Jesus to seek and to have the same mind of Jesus Christ, to have the same virtues, the same characteristics that he has, and to incorporate those into our lives via a brain transplant, basically. In order to have the mind of Christ, we must void ourselves of this thing that he addressed of selfish ambition or vain conceit. This word vain conceit, if you're translating it quite literally, it comes out as vainglorious. That's a little awkward to say, but basically what it means is there's an empty glory. There's an absence of any glory in your life. There's an absence of significance and meaning and purpose. It also means we are filled with selfish conceit, and that selfish conceit drives us to a life of absolute emptiness. It's the attitude that we have, that most Americans have, that all things that I involve my life in should profit me, and that I should not be involved in anything that might be a burden to me, that's going to cost me, that's going to be somehow detrimental to my life. At least that's may be the way that I see it. Paul also says in Galatians 6:2, he says, carry one another's burdens. If the only burdens we're willing to carry and the only challenges that we are willing to accept are those that are going to profit us and make our life easier for us, then you or I are going to win first place at the Global Vainglory Challenge. We're going to win the prize of winning absolutely nothing, because we will never take on anything that comes in the form of a challenge, a burden, something that's going to cost us. And the reality is, following Jesus Christ is going to cost us. But the returns on our cost are absolutely amazing and wonderful. My family and I went on a family vacation one time with extended family, and we were all sitting in a big circle in the living room. We were playing a game. We called it Dictionary. I don't know if that's the real name of the game, but the way the game works is you find a word in the dictionary that you think nobody knows the meaning to, and then people in the circle write a definition of either what they know the definition to be, or they make one up and in hopes that they're going to fool everybody into thinking that's the correct definition. My nephew Trent, who was a middle schooler at the time, he had no clue what the word was that was chosen, and so he didn't even want to work hard for a definition. So he came up with this definition, and I have never forgotten it. It's the most hilarious definition in the world to me. His definition was this: to love a woman, but not enough to count. Now, everybody was rolling on the floor when he read that definition. But I want to tell you this: vainglorious means to love Jesus, but not enough to count. To love other people, but not enough to count. Aren't we always talking about how we love people, and oh, how we love Jesus, and oh, how we love this? Do we love Jesus and other people enough to count? Let me pause here again and ask you this question. How much of your faith is about receiving a blessing? How often do you say, I'm looking for a church that will give me everything I'm looking for and that provides the greatest programs and the best music and the best preaching? How much of faith is about you being a blessing? How many times do we say, I'm looking for a church, for a faith community, for a small group where I can step in and be the servant and be the one to help out and to help carry other people's burdens in that context? When do we look for expressions of faith in which we ask the question, where can I give? Where can I share? How, when, where, and how can I help carry other people's burdens? Think about that for a while and then ask yourself, am I where I want to be? And do I need to make some changes in my life at that point? You know, in America, the average person really likes Jesus. They think he's a good man. They may think he's a prophet. He's a great teacher. He's a person that shows us how to love other people. But in all honesty, they're very moderate about their religion. They have just enough religion to look like they care, but not enough to count. You know, they have a little Jesus. You probably here in the Journey Church, Pastor Nate passed out these little bitty images of Jesus, and he says we need to tell everybody they need a little Jesus. Well, we'll be talking about that more in the coming weeks. Do we need a little Jesus or do we need the whole Jesus? We view the burdens of others as something that we can't afford or we're not willing to take on because it would be a sacrifice to us. Whether we're talking about supporting our church financially, and we look at our budget and we go, oh my, if I did that, that would be a huge burden. It would be a great sacrifice. I would lose something from myself if I had to do that. If we're asked to minister to certain people, particularly people in great need, we look at that and we go, oh my soul, that would cost so much emotional energy, so much time, so much physical work. That's a great sacrifice to me. And so we tend to run away from those things because they are going to cost us. And the reality is it will cost us. At the core of empathy is the willingness to carry someone else's burden and to take on a sacrifice. What if God was apathetic toward us? He would look down at us and basically he would say, I don't care. What if God was sympathetic about us? Then he would look down and he would see our sin and our dilemma and our plight and our separation from him, and he would just say, oh my goodness, what a crying shame. Fortunately, God is empathetic, which means he loved us enough and he cared enough for us not to leave us in that dilemma. He came and he rescued us. He saved us. He invited us to be in relationship with him and to follow him. I hear people say, God loves me just as I am. And I want to say to that, no, he doesn't. He does not love you just as you are. He loves you, period. You need to move the period from just as I am right up to after the word period. He loves you, period. If he loved you as you were, there would be no need for a Savior. There would be no need for someone to die for you. There would be no need for him to say, hey, follow me and learn from me and learn how to live life differently. If he loved you just as you were and left you there, he would be sympathetic, but he would not be empathetic. It's apathetic for you and I to love people as they are. That is an insult to say, we love you so much, but we take absolutely no action to invest our lives in your lives and in a way that really helps them. If we're not moving empathetically, then we're not helping them reach the goal of hope, healing, and wholeness. Jesus did not become a human so he could receive our love. He didn't come looking for love. He became a human so he could share his love for us. He didn't come to us to be loved at all. He came to share his love with you and me and to share his love with the whole world. If we have the mind of Christ, as Paul encourages us to, then we are not here to be loved. We're here to love everyone else, to serve everyone else, and to carry their burdens with them. And you're right, that will cost you. I have 3 sons. I love all 3 of my sons. They are radically different in their personalities and their callings and what they do. My youngest son, Danny, lives in Los Angeles. He's a cinematographer. He works in Hollywood, when they're not on strike and when he's not unemployed and in the plight that he's been in for over a year. But when he was in high school, a friend of mine named Scott Collins came to Danny and said, Danny, I want you to help me film a story about a poverty-stricken family that lives in the Rio Grande Valley on the border in Texas, on the border between Texas and Mexico. Scott worked for a benevolent organization that focused on meeting all kinds of needs of people, helping families, helping single moms, helping in terms of foster care for children, bringing complete and total transformation to entire communities. And so Scott told my son, Danny, he says, I'm going to drop you off in the morning with all of your camera and your gear, and I'm just going to set you free, and I'll pick you back up at 5 o'clock. And about 5 o'clock, then we'll go back to the motel. We'll get something to eat, and you can relax, take a shower, and stay in the motel, and you'll be in great shape. Well, my son Danny looked at the scenario, and the story that he was going to tell was of a family, mom, dad, and 3 children. Mom had cancer and was not expected to live much longer, and they lived in a short bus. Everything in their life took place in the short bus. They slept in the short bus. They cooked in the short bus. They took showers as best they could in a short bus. All hygiene issues were in the short bus. Everything was in the short bus for 5 people. And Danny looked at this story and he told Scott, he said, Scott, I can't tell this story without diving into the story and identifying with them. I need to better understand who they are and what they're going through. I can't just sit back in a sanitized way and film the story for them. And he said, so what I want to do is I want to stay with the family the entire time I'm working on this project. So for the next 4 days, 4 nights, my son lived with this family in the short bus. And he did what they did. He showered the way they showered. He ate the food that they ate. He struggled to sleep in some uncomfortable circumstances because he wanted to understand the story. It's easy for us to look at that family and say, we are so sympathetic. That breaks our heart for them. But to be empathetic meant to do what my son did. He said, I'm going to step in. I want to identify with them. I want to know their struggle firsthand. And I want to do what I can to help them overcome that struggle. This is what it means to have the mind of Christ. We don't observe people's struggles and challenges and problems from a distance. We step into their lives with the intent to carry that burden. Does that make sense? The mind of Jesus in us is going to take us where the heart of Jesus takes him. And that's always plugging into the lives of other people. God loves you, but not as you are. He is not sympathetic with your plight. He's empathetic. He will not allow you to stay as you are. He will change your life forever. As followers of Jesus, we cannot respond apathetically and say to our lost world, we don't care, it's not our problem. We can't just respond sympathetically and say, oh, our heart breaks for you. We must respond empathetically. We need to let go of our minds and our hearts in their present form and allow God to morph them into the mind and the heart of Jesus that's going to lead us to step into the lives of people, to pick up their burden with them and carry them together. Does that make sense? That's our calling. There's a scholar named John Stott. He passed away a number of years, but he was very significant in the formation of my faith when I first came to faith many years ago. He wrote a number of books. One of them was entitled Basic Christianity. If you're new to the faith, this is a book I'd still recommend that you read. And in that book, he said this: if you read the Bible, you'll see that nobody who ever met Jesus Christ ever had a moderate reaction to him. There are only 3 reactions to Jesus. They either hated him and wanted to kill him, they were afraid of him and wanted to run away, or they were absolutely smitten with him and they tried to give their whole lives to him. Giving our whole lives to him means we'll go where he goes, we'll go where he hurts, we'll go where his heart is, we'll do whatever it takes to step into the lives of people with great compassion and love and say, how can I help you? How can I serve you? Which one of these descriptions about Jesus best describes you? Do you hate him? Do you sort of love him but you don't really follow him? Are you in love with Him in such a way that you want to follow Him and to be a true apprentice follower of Him? I hope you will choose to give your whole life to Him, and that you'll follow Him, and that you will be equally concerned about the people that Jesus is concerned about, and that you'll take that step of sacrifice and say, I'm going to help carry somebody's burden, and I'm going to do it this week. I think you'll find that your life will be a lot richer as a result of that. So there's your challenge. I hope you take it up. God bless you. Have a great week.
Hold me now in the hands that created the heavens. Find me now where the grace runs as deep as your scars. Pull me from the clay. Lift me on a rock. Call me by your name. Made my whole heart again. Lift it up, and my knees know it's all for your glory. I might stand with more reasons to sing than to fear. You pulled me from the clay, set me on a rock. You called me by your name, made my heart whole again. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, you love my whole heart. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. And that grace holds the ground where the grave is. When my shame remains left for dead in your way, crash those angel gates. You left no stone unturned. You stepped out on that grave. Shouldered me all the way. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, but you love my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds that ground. Your grace holds me now. 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 Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, but you love my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds that ground. Your grace holds me